Well, hello, and welcome to the second episode of Surfing the Portal. Uh, and what we're doing is we're actually going in and out of the portal, which is a website that we've established to help target individuals or selected individuals, I like to call them. And what we'll do is I'm going to dispense with telling you how we got involved in this and just move into the portal because I think it's kind of self-explanatory. It's a research project. It's a research project that we're trying to do on behalf of targeted individuals that I call selected individuals. And from being very close to this subject and working with the crime joint investigation team for several months, I've gotten really close to the topic of targeted individuals, what they're going through, what they're being subjected to. And then I heard a broadcast by Brian Tu. Now, Brian Tu apparently had worked for one of the many agencies that's doing this to the average citizen. And he suggested some proven solutions or techniques that people could employ to minimize the effects of the gang stalking and energy weapons and that kind of foolishness that they're doing. And to me, when I was listening to them, they were like getting involved deeply in music, meditation. I think somebody suggested yoga, but they all seemed like moving in kind of a more Eastern direction. Where in the West, we have a tendency to fight things. In the East, they try to use judo against them and use their own energy against them. So I was thinking of that. I was also thinking that, boy, the targeted individuals, the way it's described by Brian Tu, their brains are being mapped. So they're being subject to irritations, painful irritations, embarrassing irritations, stupid irritations, hopefully intimidating irritations. And what the AI that's running the program wants to do is map their brain based on their responses to that stimuli. Now, I liken that to a rat running through a maze. You know, there are a lot of rats in science experiments, but rats aren't really interested in science. So if there wasn't a plastic plexiglass cover on top, all the rats would climb out and there would be no experiment. And I was thinking these ideas that Brian Tu had are kind of like, rather than responding, climbing out of the maze, getting involved in another way to look at things or a technique that will not allow them to get to you as much. And so the Techno Crime Fighter Forum that we were on when I brought that up, thought it was a good idea. So what I wanted to do was come up with a whole bunch of these things so the TIs could try. But wouldn't you know, right away, we find out that targeted individuals, selected individuals, are already using a lot of these different things. And things that I could have never thought of, very creative things like jittery vibrations. And it's been kind of an overwhelmingly enjoyable connection to know that I'm on the right path, that this is a different way to look at it. This is a different way to get out of the matrix a little bit. Or, if you're in a harness, a little bit looser in the harness so you can get in and out of this. So we decided to, Mindy and I put up a portal. Actually, Mindy did. And she divided it into, let me screen share if I can, the portal. Here we go. I'm not sure what you're seeing, but I'm seeing the portal. And I could move it over so I could see your comments. Carrie C. Why and who are the TIs and gang stalkers? Good question. Carrie, well, let me answer that question. Also, by the way, if you're seeing Pinecone Utopia Portal, the first page, let me know in the chat. So we see the tree, great, okay. Carrie, let me just bring you up to date on what we're talking about. And this is probably a really strange subject. And it's very strange because the mainstream media won't even touch it. It's popping up once in a while on alternative sites, but it's like the biggest hush-hush since the Pizzagate or since the Pedogate hush-hush of all the pedophiles in high offices. What's happening here is there are millions of people around the world who are being subject to torture, financed by and sponsored by the governments throughout the world through something called the deep state. So the deep state is torturing these individuals, and the big question is, why are they? Hi, Shay. Why are they torturing these individuals? And that's really a good question. The latest answer came from Brian Tu's research and his disclosures. The gang stalking and the energy weapons are a way of stimulating you, giving you a stimulus so that you respond, so that they can map your response into a giant computer. Now this is, it's a giant computer, but it runs through an individual. So anyway, so what they're doing is they're mapping your brains, and they continue to do this. They want to know every way you're going to go. So that's the idea of the program. Eventually, everybody in the United States will be in the program. Everybody in the world will be in the program. It's just a matter of this is the stage we're in now. So here we go. That's why they're doing this. So anyway, to escape this matrix, to try to get some relief from these parasites that are torturing, we've decided to collect techniques that were effective. Now, if you look down here, I've got research, techniques, discussion. That's where this podcast is going to be about contact, blah, 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 blah. The techniques are ideas that, from my study of consciousness studies, I've learned a lot of different Eastern and Western techniques. Some of them are very Christian, that can sometimes eliminate or alleviate your pain and suffering in the here and now. Mindfulness is one thing. Yoga is another thing. Prayer is another thing. So there are techniques. And what we meant here was kind of a collection of techniques that could serve as a like a well for the selected individuals who want to do something but don't know what to do, go into the techniques. I would advise them, though, to go to the research, because this is the real heart and soul of what we're doing here. Let me see if they'll let us go into research. Okay. This is an open source investigation, and what we've got is the opening resource that explains what's going on. And then down the left side are certain ideas that were sent in and are interesting to look at. These are not just ideas that I came up with or that I've read about. These are ideas that people selected are using, and they're having good luck. So we ask them when they submit this, that if you're a TI and you want to submit one, that would be great. Um, tell us a little bit about how you're being programmed, how they're stalking you. Is it energy weapons? Is it just theater reactions? How are they stalking you? Because I think that there are many different programs. I mean, I think there were 185 different MK Ultra programs. So, and this is many years later, this has vastly expanded the mind control endeavors. So there's got to be thousands of programs. But tell us a little bit about your program, and then what you do. What happens when you practice this? How does it affect the perpetrators that are causing this? Sometimes it's easy to see. Sometimes it takes a long time. Anyway, well, I think last week we talked about Nomi Valentin's idea. I actually invited her to be on this podcast, and I don't think she's here yet. So if she can figure out how to get in, that'll be great, because then she could really flesh this thing out. She uses a Zen Buddhist technique called mindfulness meditation. And she talks a little bit about her stalking. Then she gives us a link to her teacher, which is a very interesting guy I'd run into many times before, Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese monk. And he explains exactly how it works, exactly how to do it. And she says that she's really getting a lot of freedom. She says, it's possible to reduce the pain caused by directed energy weapons without shielding using the following method. Cane pen, and then it goes on to explain it. If you're interested, and I think I'd be interested, you can go down here. And then I can go back. We've got another one that's listening to frequencies to break the brain entrapment, like Pamela Seeley. One technique I've discovered that's helping me break the brain entrapment program is using against me recently, keeping me in a brain loop over past memories and instilling unwanted emotions in me, is listening to the 7.83 Schumann resonance as well as 432 hertz. These sounds and music can be found on YouTube. Of course, I'm skeptical that some of what is circulating on the internet could have a negative stimulant frequencies embedded. I advise you to be cautious, but these frequencies have helped me immensely. Hey, I just want to stop and want to applaud her for being skeptical. You know, we're in a time of deep deception. I mean, nobody can argue that. It really pays to check things out, because there's a lot of influence, negative influence that's out there trying to be perpetrated upon you. So it really does help to check out. I mean, you know, don't be paranoid, but be smart. So she says, these sounds and music can be found on YouTube, of course. I'm skeptical. I'm considering purchasing a 7.83 Schumann resonance generator for my home. If I do, I'll let you know the results. So that's another idea. It's more technological. Oh, by the way, we've had such great response this week that Mindy's noticing that other than things like this that help you climb out of the box, this target population, this group that I'm talking to, is loaded with protection ideas, shielding ideas. I mean, so we're getting a lot of different types of ideas and different. So So we're gonna make some new categories for you to peruse when you're visiting here. Okay, anyway, so that's what Pamela does. Let's go back to research. Focused Jitter Vibration by Brian Wilcox. Now, Brian is really interested in helping this. He's been communicating with me on email all week. He's got some good ideas, and he's really interested in helping. Focused jitter vibration for breaking down the connection to TI's mapped mind and or sympathetic pineal function. I've tried to make it easy for you to follow, but you might want to quiz me on anything that is hard to understand to make sure not to confuse other TIs. So I decided to leave out a lot of my other material because I don't want to front load what others discover with this. So let's see what functional TI feedback comes from this mental exercise. Favorite physical mental breathing position, breathe deep and slow. Oh, this is an interesting, it's like a guided meditation kind of thing. Oh, he said beyond all the above, defense quickly learned and to the sympathetic pineal function that could be OBE. Now, OBE means out of body experience. So what he's saying is that doing this with this focused intent could stimulate the sympathetic pineal function and shoot you right out, which would be a form of relief, I would think. This is neat. One might find that this new energy awareness about I eventually goes inside and becomes we. That's a typical inside-out movement. Most people are distracted far too easily, and this is the typical Kabbalah day outside-in programming. Awareness transfers can be more like listening to a large amount of energy again, but having awareness transfer into a location where all minds connect. See where he's going with this? We are so always focused on the outside. When you focus on the inside, you're, excuse me. Hope you're getting that. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, what he's saying is if you focus on the inside, rather than being cramped, it's opening up to other awarenesses connected, like all minds. A space where the mind is still quiet and waits for the feeling of a presence or waits for, say, a telepathic message. Your conscious is essentially setting the intention to be quiet without front-loading any idea of what it might be like, period. So ideas like this are useful to avoid the typical programmed response. So the perpetrators are focused on the stimulus response. We have to respond. The stimulus comes in from outside world and you respond in the outside world. What he's saying is screw the outside world. Let's focus on the inside world where we're all connected. And avoid making any typical response. After all, TIs know the voice of God gig, and it's nice to feel a different angle that's more authentic, and OBE is perfect for that. You may also find that this energy shifts with the pineal gland can also drop you into lucid meditation and lucid dreaming. Sounds good to me. I think that's really exciting because I think that really hits at the way to get out of this. myself. Okay, let's go back to research. Okay. Here are we. Here we go. Here's an interesting one. Cochlear, I suppose that's how you pronounce implants. And what you can do. Now, this is something other than the kind of techniques that I was thinking about. But this helps. So we're collecting these. We might put it in another category, but let's get into this. I don't know whether you've ever heard of these things. I can't believe what I found out. The implant could be so advanced as to reduce it to receiving and transmitting into microchips. Cochlear implants bypass most of the peripheral auditory system, which receives sounds and converts that sound into movements of hair cells in the cochlea. The inside portion of these hair cells release potassium ions in response to the movement of the hairs. And the potassium in turn stimulates other cells to release the neurotransmitter glutamate, which makes a cochlear nerve send signals to the brain, which creates the experience of sound. Instead, the devices pick up sound and digitize it, convert that digitized sound into electrical signals, and transmit those signals to electrodes embedded in the cochlea. The electrodes electronically stimulate the cochlear nerve, causing it to send signals to the brain. Well, maybe I'm stupid, but it doesn't sound like it's. Is she saying that you should put these on, or are these something to put on to reduce? I didn't get it. Oh. So there's some other ideas here. Anyway, you can peruse this yourself. Back to more research. There's one more that I wanted to make sure I got in here. This woman reads the Bible in public places. Pretty interesting. For at least 16 years, I've experienced almost all of the impressionist TIs around the world, including the guests on the Techno Crime Fighters Forum have gone. Just a quick message here regarding what happened to me during the last week. Having regularly fasted and read the Holy Bible for about 5 years, I've been finding that the intended negative consequences of attacks, demonic as well as physical, have been increasingly dissipating. During the last 2 weeks, the, quote, convoy of the regional mafia, quote, has already ramped up with the ebbs and flows. There have been times when they left the community in their convoys, only to be followed the next day by renewed attacks by another army of roughnecks. My experience in this regard sounded very much like Ramallah D, with their cars driving up and down the street, shooting streams of energy. So anyway, you can peruse this at your leisure and see what you make of this. I think that there's power, certainly in power and focus, and there's power where you choose to find it, I think. So that's good. Let me quickly go over to the chat here. I told my perps I loved them, Christopher Howard says. I talked to a woman about a month ago now, who I've been having the show. That was her solution. And she said, love. compassion. You know, love your perps. And I thought it sounded like the right answer. But I'm thinking, wow, these people are going through hell. And to turn around and love the one that's torturing them, I mean, how could that happen? And but I'm hearing it more and more. And I just heard it from, I think it was somebody named Howard. Yeah, Christopher Howard. So, so I think that's a real cool thing to try. I know that getting into a relaxed, real positive, grateful state of mind helps a lot. It may not be loving them, but I am grateful how the whole thing is unfolding. You know what I've been thinking about? This whole targeting situation, it really has got to be following a grand plan. And the plan has got to be so big, all encompassing, grand technical. I mean, it's got to be so big. It's got to be orchestrated by whatever the divine presence is. It's just a matter of tracing it back up the ladder. In most stories where there's a creation of evil, it's usually a creation by the God of good that becomes the evil. So if you think about it, it's kind of like God creating the duality for the program. And, you know, you have to have evil to have good. I mean, one defines the other. The Christian Bible, the Christian Satan literally means adversary. I mean, it derives its identity by its association with Christ. You know what I mean? I mean, they both need each other. And the beauty of the unraveling of what's going on, I'm sorry, Shay, you can't hear. Just a minute. I'm sorry. Anyway, the beauty of what's going on is that it's playing out for you. And I think getting into that state of mind can help you transcend the duality for a minute, because the whole drama, the whole torture takes place in the duality. Us against them, bad guys against good guys. It's all about the duality. And if for some reason you can see the duality as two sides of the same coin, then you've kind of popped out of the matrix. You've kind of climbed out of the labyrinth, and you can see it all for what it is. And I think it gives, you'll be sucked back in. Don't get me wrong. It's not a one-time fixes all kind of thing, because you have to come back to the duality to deal with life and be normal. But the more times I think you can intensely be grateful for the whole drama and pop out of it for a minute, I think it's easier to get there the more you do it. Anyway, so I think a lot about how that is and why this is all happening a lot. I probably think too much about it. Okay, we've got, looks like we're getting some real, I was listening to a mole on Thursday and the plane flew over me. And I just waved and smiled. Good, Christopher. Plane. Yeah. RVs are awesome. Well, I just want to host this program. I invited Nomi. Actually, why don't I do that? See if I can re-invite her. I think that she might be as confused by the program as I am, so she might be having trouble joining us. Anyway, back to the website. Techniques. I was going to interview Oli Damagard last week, but my producer left town, so I couldn't make it happen. Also, I've had some discussion with other people. Oh, we had a whole bunch of them that came in while these are going to be going up on the blog. Not to bore you any further, but somebody suggested yoga and biofeedback. We're going to post that. You'll be able to read about that probably the end of this week, or it says the end of this week, maybe. We had an NASA insider, whistleblower, I guess. He's suggesting several things that aren't really in this genre, but practical things like disassembling your satellite dish, taking your mercury bulbs out of your house. And then we had somebody else. We had a bunch of shielding techniques. One of them is paint. We had somebody suggesting a Rife machine. Somebody suggesting Vipassana meditation, which I've done a lot. And then somebody's suggesting radiation, using radiation. But we'll have to wait till that's posted to get that. Great topic. No mercury bulbs here. There's no mercury bulbs here either, I'm happy to say. So rather than just sit and hang and read the chat, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it a day, call it a podcast. Thank all of you guys. Thank Christopher Howard. Thank Mike. Mike's always on the ball. Jesus is God's there. Shay Smith's usually on. It's been great to have someone around here tonight with me. Great topic. Glad to see you here. Very cool. Okay. Well, that's the end of episode 2. Maybe we'll have a guest on next week. I was hoping to have one on this week, but God bless you, and keep thinking. Stay happy. I don't know what to say. Bye-bye.